Okay, I'm going to make a little video here trying to summarize what my findings are and what our plan of action is. So the touch response mechanism of the piano is essentially a miniature catapult. You're shooting the hammer at the string and catching and reloading it. You need to have a good start point, your rest point, and you need to fire the catapult right next to the string. The reason is twofold. As a musician, you want to be able to play softly, which means the hammer only crosses a small distance with a small amount of energy to make the string ring. As a technician, I need to be able to knock it into tune. And what's happening here is we've got early let off, so both sides of the dynamic are being truncated. I can't knock it into tune because 3/4 of the way to the string, I stop putting in any force, and you can't play it softly because their let off is so far away the hammer can't cross that great distance to accent the string. There's a couple other symptoms that are happening. There's bobbling hammers, ga-da-ga-dung, ga-da-ga-dung. The hammer is striking the string, rebounding off the head of the jack. The jack is the firing pin of our miniature catapult. It's a capital L shape. We move the key moves the jack up, the jack moves the hammer toward the string. At some point, the toe of the jack is tripped, the hammer is fired, and then it needs to rebound and clear these components. It's currently, not only is it firing really far from the string, it's also firing with not enough emphasis, not enough intensity. And so it is rebounding off the head of the jack, which hasn't turned enough. So ideally, we're looking at a slight increase of key depth so that the components move more and clear each other. And it gives us a little more run time to get the let off where we want it. Unfortunately, under your keys, most pianos have, all pianos have these little cloth donuts, these little punchings. Usually there's paper or cardboard donuts as well that are set, adding to this overall key height or key depth. And in this case, it just goes bare directly to the furniture. So we don't have room there to make that adjustment. I think what we want to do is on the balance rail, so the key is a seesaw, that's the trigger that's firing the catapult. I think we want to increase the key height by approximately the width of like a piece of cardboard that you would have on your cereal box, right? And that's going to give us more key depth because we're starting from a higher height. It's also going to give us more intensity of motion. The steeper the hill, the faster a ball will roll down it. So it's going to give the ability to have more jack rotation with key depth, and everything will move a little more earnestly because it'll have that increased slope. We also have what might be a similar contributing factor of over-strengthened damper return springs, which I feel some of them are intense and some of them are not. So these are the three tiers of adjustments that you generally see. This is a very common misadjustment, early let off. And then when you correct a let off, you find a bobbling hammer. We're already finding bobbling hammers. When you correct a bobbling hammer, sometimes you see a secondary source of bobble in that the damper return springs have been inadvertently strengthened. When you fire the catapult, all that force doesn't just go nowhere. It goes to the rest of the components of the catapult. And the damper, which is responsible for silencing the string when you're not playing it, the damper return spring gets inadvertently strengthened because the two components end up in a bind and it widens the coil of the spring. So those are the normal three tiers of adjustment that you see with this type of symptom. The piano this is a bungalow spinet. How cool. A spinet. So normally the key is a seesaw and our miniature catapult, the action, the whip-in and the hammer are sitting on the other end of the seesaw, right? With this instrument, because it's so short, rather than having the whip-in, the catapult, sit on the other end of the key, it's actually suspended below so that there's all these extra abstracts and elbows flying a little blind here. These are the abstracts. No idea if that made it. And then you can see them down here as well, these components. So normally all of this would sit up on top, but here we are underneath the piano. So that's just to fit into the smaller cabinet. It means there's twice as many moving parts in any spinet as there is in an upright. So we get into some uncertainty of adjustment. In the studio, you got to get realistic expectations from a Spinet. There's always going to be clicking, rattling, rubbing, knocking that we might or might not be able to do anything about. I think for what this instrument is, we can get it nice and enjoyable and playable and stable. Part of the reason it's going out of tune so much is that we're not able to knock it into tune. So instead of being able to deliver full force to the wire to stabilize the wire, again, flying blind, I move the pin. The first part of the pin to move, of the wire to move, is between the pin and this pressure plate, and then it goes over that direction changer underneath that bar. So you can imagine if I'm stretching a rubber band over my finger, it'd be really stretched here, but not very stretched there. And we're using the maximum force to the speaking length to draw out any latent motion. Similar stuff happens with the guitar where you move the tuning peg, but it doesn't all make it to the speaking length. You play a little bit, and the motion you've imparted to the wire draws out all the change onto the speaking length. So when you've got early let off, you can't knock the piano into tune, which means there's latent motion that hasn't made it to the speaking length, and 100 soft strikes will destabilize what should have been stabilized by maximum force. I'm really going to knock the piano into tune so that you can't play it out of tune. But with the geometry working this way, where there's, like 12 inches, 12 millimeters of let off, there's just no way to deliver maximum force. So I think what I'm going to do with the rest of my day today is increase your key height by that, like the cereal box cardboard height, and see if that's going to give me the adjustments that I need to get rid of the bobble. And then if that doesn't work from getting the parts to clear each other, we'll see if it's going to be the damper return spring. There are some that are pushing the components into retrograde, but it's third tier. Pedal timing. Lots of lost motion. There's some winking dampers. I don't know what more I'll be able to do on the sustain pedal because they're not lifting uniformly. There's like sections that are lifting before others. That's what I mean by winking. So most of the breath of the sustain is coming toward, 50% of the motion of the pedal. Left pedal is all lost motion. That's no problem. That I can adjust pretty easily. I'm going to hopefully not lock myself out and go get what I need to make this key height adjustment, and that's probably going to be the best first step for us.